Hey everybody. This is the final episode 7 of the HGG Podcast. I'm Michael Morgan, and we're going to hop right into it today. But before I do, I just want to say it's been an amazing journey for these last 7 weeks to realize a number of things about myself. The tracking sheet has been great, of course. Who doesn't like to track everything that they do? I'm generally, and actually see data points about their life and their purpose and how they do things and why they do things. It's been fantastic. And for those of you who followed along, thank you. Thanks for your time and your care, your consideration. I am going to hop in this Part 2 sheet as I come to the end of, almost 8 weeks of doing this. It's pretty amazing. It's really the end of 7 weeks, but my space is definitely running out here. We have, just a little recap, we've gone through family, faith, fitness, finance, friends, fight, and now the final stage, freedom. When I first put this together, the vision was that it's a journey that we go on as humans in living in a kind of a humane society around like how things develop. And you start off with having a family, and then you kind of gain your freedom, so to speak, through all these other steps. People sometimes choose earlier on in life than others to form a family, which is supposed to be your closest and most reliable tribe of people. Then we also have the financial piece fits in, because it's really hard to lead a family without some type of resource in order to make that happen. And then we have these other components. Your fitness, your health becomes really important later in life. Down the line, you realize that you need friends, because sometimes your family tribe or the inherited family members that you have, there's a need for diversification, so to speak. And then you have the fight of it all. Of course, being willing to stand for what you believe in and stand on your business, so to speak, or your philosophy, your heart, your most core ethical, spiritual principles. And that, of course, leads to what the last will be first and the first will be last, is faith. And for me, faith is how I start my tracking every day. And all those things have led me in a pretty amazing journey, even just within the last 8 weeks. It's connected me into orbits and alliances with people that probably wouldn't otherwise appreciate as much. But when I see myself as a 7-figure, 7-sided entity, being, person, I'm realizing, dude, there's no way I can handle all this stuff all by myself. There's absolutely no way. So the people who are helping me in certain areas, the way I'm utilizing AI and LLMs and agents and counselors to try to get help in different directions, is really amazing. I've learned that the faith is my engine, for sure. And I've discovered that family is a foundation. As for me and my house, we will serve Adonai, Elohim, Ahava. And then there's the vessel, my own human vessel, and being able to track how I'm caring for that vessel. The biggest gain I've made in these 8 weeks, and I'm so proud to say it, is my ability, my flexibility, and my ability to stretch and touch my toes. Dude, I've never, literally, I don't think ever in my life have I been more stretchable, flexible than I am today. I remember even in middle school, I would hate having to touch my toes during PE gym class. I hated it. It was uncomfortable for me. I didn't like it. I am extending far past my toes in my stretches, and that's because I've been grading myself, giving myself points for these stretches every single day. And stretching is worth 5 points out of my 10 total fitness points per day. So if I miss an entire hour workout of weights and triceps, biceps, abs, all that stuff, I lose 5 points. If I don't stretch for literally 7 minutes, I lose the same amount of points as I do for a 60-minute workout. So my mind, which is pretty smart at gaming things, realized, dude, if you just do the stretching, you'll get the 5 points. Even on the days, and it's on average about 5 days a week, so I'm missing working out 2 days a week. So I'm missing 10 points total from my total score. I've never had a perfect score in the 7 weeks that I've been doing this. I've never had a perfect score in a week or a weekend, I think. And I kind of broke it down in that way for a reason. So that has been really awesome. One of the corollaries, one of the preliminary experiences I had with this was I took a class in the Claremont colleges, and the professor said, I want you to commit to doing 3 things for the entire time that you're in my course. That he's like a behavioral psychologist and very well known, very accomplished man, a professor, PhD. And he said, I want you to track these things every day. And so my 3 were drinking a certain amount of water. I think it was 3 gallons of water, 5 gallons of water every day. Stretching every day, and journaling every day. And what I've been doing now is effectively getting back to that, but it's taken me basically 2.5 years to kind of come back to that with this new model in the 7 pillars. The next piece is the finance and the fuel. That's just to keep things going. More and more today in the world we're living in, especially where I live in Los Angeles, California, everything seems to be pay to play. If I want to go somewhere, it's going to cost me gas to drive in my car. It's going to cost me not working for a client. There's no such thing as free time. Time is not free in the world I live in. I am constantly having to pay somebody something just to keep the lights on, just to keep the arcade machine running. If I stop paying, if I try to go for a day, I tried to do Sabbaths for a while where I wouldn't spend any money on Shabbat, which I think there's some traditions or expressions of the Jewish tradition of Judaism where the people shop the day before, and then so they don't have to spend money on the actual day of Shabbat. Plus, they don't want to walk to the store. It's a whole thing. So I tried to do that. And I don't think I've been able to successfully do that going on about a year now. I think 2-3 years ago, I found time once a week to not spend money. I don't think a day goes by anymore where I don't spend money. Plus, I'm having money siphoned, from all these technology tools and digital tools, and payments are coming out of this account and that account. It's constant. My children are at an age where things need to be paid for them every day. It's a whole thing. So that's the fuel. And what do you do when you're running low on a fuel tank? You fill up with fuel. Or you also have some emergency, fuel tanks, energy tanks, whatever. The brotherhood piece, friends, fellowship for me has also been really enlightening, because I've come to realize the value of community when I'm not reliant on a community, when I don't need something from a community, and when that community doesn't pressure me or need something from me. And I'm a pretty grew up only child. I didn't have brothers and sisters. I'm a pretty independent person. And what I realized from this whole experience and running this is I don't need a monthly community in order to do the best that I can do. I don't need a community that I check in with every day or every week or every month. I don't need a community that I pay membership fee in. I don't. And having an awareness of that is a very empowering thing, and certainly leads to freedom, which is cool because it took me 7 weeks to realize very clearly, and also without any negativity around any of the communities that I've been a part of, that, you know what, dude, if that's what people need and that's what people are utilizing, awesome. Just not for me. And it's as simple as that. The fight piece is great. I'm a huge fighter. On one of these assessments that I did, and kind of all the different components of my being, my multifaceted being, fight is my 10 out of 10. Nothing else is 10 out of 10. Even my faith was like 9.6. So I am a fighter for sure. I've been told this by many, many people, some very accomplished, very successful people. So I stand my ground for sure. And then I also, I also defend really, really well and protect. So that's kind of what I do. And it's something that has been sharpened for me during this time. What else do I have here? Dealing with negotiating in difficult conversations. I was supposed to be measuring, we covered this last week, the number of difficult conversations that I was having a day. I mean, I probably on average have one difficult negotiation or conversation a day. When I do have those conversations, if I'm prepared to have what I'm aware of could be a difficult negotiation or conversation, it's so much better for me than having it sprung on me. Having a difficult negotiation or conversation is very difficult to deal with for anybody. But when you're doing as much as what I'm doing, it becomes basically, totally unreasonable. And so if I can get myself in a headspace to have one of those conversations, and then I take my time and it's on kind of my terms to have those conversations, most of the time I will decide I don't need to have that conversation. And I won't really avoid it, but I will defuse it, and I will transform it into an encouragement or a conversation to build up the other person or whatever. That's the best way that I can do things until my back is up against a wall, and nobody wants to be put into a corner. That is always just a recipe for bad relationships. Also it tracks how much relationship trust I'm accruing. And I'm actually finding myself to be doing more and more because I'm leaning in on my own independence and embracing my own kind of like default ideal. So here we are in freedom. We finally gotten here. Freedom is really, it wasn't in the original model that I was kind of working with. And then I realized, dude, it needs to be 7. It can't be 6. And as I've leaned into my freedom, my own freedom, this tracking has become really a beautiful thing. And it's actually evolved the most. The tracking of my freedom is what has given me the most customization. So the first question, also, I just recently used these things to get free of a bunch of subscription costs that I didn't really necessarily need. And I double-checked, sometimes triple-checked, do I need these? And then when I came to the final answer that I really don't, I completely canceled them. And I'm still trying to argue with some tech company that wants to justify keeping my credit card on file. I mean, it's taken in some cases weeks. One of my greatest fights was fighting against the Walt Disney company in California. through the California Consumer Protection Act. And it took years for me to get my data removed from their list. And I hate to break it to you all, but if you've gone to Disneyland or paid for any Disney products ever, your names and the data for you and your family are on their list. There's a whole separate thing if you ever want to know how to get off of it. But it took me years to do that. And so I got free. We're living in an age where our freedoms, especially in the United States of America, are being kind of like, monetized and consumed and paid for. And we think that the freedom is not free type of, cliche statement. Totally legitimately true, but in a completely different way in the year 2026 and beyond. And so we have to work at that. We have to untangle these things. And I had an experience recently where I was untangling some things for me and my business and some other stuff. And I would go through Claude code using my terminal, which gives me some really great outputs. And then I go through Google Gemini, which is my kind of go-to LLM, and got some good output. And then I merged both of those outputs and put it through Grok, which is XAI's LLM. And it gave me the best counsel that I could get, which was a merging of these two others. That is what the book of Proverbs in chapter 15, verse 22 says, we should have a multitude of wise counselors. Dude, you can read the book of Proverbs every day. You can read your faith or your wisdom, texts, faith-based or wisdom texts all day long. But if you're not practicing those things and putting those into practice, what's the point of studying wisdom? What's the point of studying knowledge if you're not actually activating it and embodying it? So for me, if I'm supposed to have a multitude of wise counselors, am I going to go to three people who may have 10, 20% understanding of what I'm dealing with? Or do I go to these chatbots and these agents that I have trained to know who I am and then ask them? Obviously, do I go to a community of my friends at a barbecue? Do I show up and say, hey guys, wow, I'm dealing with a problem. I want to get your feedback. Dude, 10 different guys are going to give me 10 different opinions, and they're mostly going to be colored by their own experiences. And I've never met anybody like me. So my freedom in this last episode is realizing I'm completely unique and unlike anybody I've ever met. And I don't need to be like other people. I don't need to kind of cookie cutter myself. I can live in full alignment with the statements that apply to me, my I am statements. So, and this is even a journey in itself. To come to these I am statements, I have fascinating history to show actually all of my statements, my I am statements over the years. I've saved documentation of them. Part of this journey for me, and then why I created the freedom section or pillar as a unique part for me, is that I've done coaching, I've done executive coaching and training in a way that has helped me become, aware of self-knowledge and aware of who I am and why I do the things I do. So I'm going to read you a little bit from October 29th, 2020, 6 years ago. Michael Morgan is a world builder, a game changer, and a respected and well-decorated innovator of technological progress. Michael is a cleaner, as defined by Tim Grover in his book Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable. Michael Morgan is like another Michael, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant were both cleaners, the ones who always get the job done. So is Michael Morgan. Michael has an amazing career. Michael makes the competition study him. He doesn't care who he's facing. He knows he can handle anyone. Michael trusts his gut and goes for it. He doesn't hesitate or think twice. Michael doesn't wait to be asked. He just does what needs to be done. Michael feels successful when he gets the job done, and he always gets the job done. Michael loves his family. He loves learning and leading through education, and he is a healer and positive artist. Michael is not afraid, and he is not broken down or intimidated by opponents. Michael thrives under pressure. I'm going to stop there. My experience in the world of, call it coaching, we'll use sports as an analogy. Any sport and any player in the sport who's really, really good, it's 100% true. The opposition study them. They study their moves. You have great teams. The other teams watch game videos. They watch their opponents. They watch them. Comes from Lao Tzu's Art of War. It's an ancient form of getting the best of your opponent. You study your opponent. What I've also learned is that those who are well practiced in the art of deviancy and the art of destruction, they, like many countries study the United States. They study this country in order to find the weaknesses and find the areas of vulnerability. And then they try to exploit those areas of vulnerability in an attack. Cybersecurity is a really good example. You could do a full-on 100% analogy, an analogous comparison of what we're talking about here within cybersecurity. Once the perimeter is breached, you actually don't want to let your opponent know you've breached the perimeter. You want to do it early on, silently, quietly, and then you want to sit. And in the time that you've breached the perimeter, you want to study what's inside that perimeter, that secret place that you've gotten into. Then you kind of start to reverse things, and then anything that's doing good, you turn into doing bad. And this is well-known art of war type of stuff. What's great is I can share that with you from 2020 because I have transformed myself completely. And my I am statements, which I'm not going to share with you here, they are completely different than anything that you just heard me share from 6 years ago, because I am changing. I am evolving. I am transforming. And in that way, I could take the things that I had then, and I'll just give you a general. The things I was thinking, the things I was being, the person I was being, the things I was doing, what I was having. Those things have all changed. And so let's say you're listening to this because you are my enemy and you want to study me in order to destroy me. Well, then you can study, and you can hear what I was 6 years ago. But guess what? I'm not that same person anymore today. So you're going to have to keep working and understanding who I am. If you are my enemy, I do my best to embody the teachings of Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach, and he said, love your enemies and pray for them. So if you're listening right now and you're an enemy of Michael Morgan and you hate me and you want me to be destroyed, I bless you and I'll be praying for you. Pray for the haters. Some great hip-hop examples of that. People who've come to understand you'll always have haters. And you can't get rid of them, so, bless them. Keep becoming better. Keep becoming the best you've ever been. And, blessings on your head, my enemies. Moving right along, we have those. The question is, did I live in full alignment with my 5 I am statements throughout the day? So if I keep getting a bunch of no's, which I don't have, I'm doing pretty well on this one, then I'm able to just check in, understand that that's what I'm doing, which is great. Yeah, about halfway through this 7 weeks, so around week 3 or so, I had a really cool engagement with someone, and they noticed something about me, and they started a conversation based on their faith tradition, and it opened me up to adopt a separate 6 statements for anyone to use as part of their freedom evaluation or freedom assessment, freedom data. And it's from 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 11. And it says, be strong in these ways. Be righteous, be godly, be faithful, be loving, be steadfast, and be gentle. So these become a sort of like a New Testament Christian way of assessing yourself. And you can ask yourself, did I live in full alignment with these statements throughout the day? If so, which one was strongest? And it gives you an opportunity to kind of develop a relationship with being faithful. If you're not a faithful person, then this gives you an opportunity to become more faithful. If you're not a loving person, this gives you an opportunity to become more loving. If you're not steadfast, you give up easily and you kind of move from thing to thing, this gives you a chance to become more steadfast. If you're not a godly person, if you're an ungodly person, this gives you a chance to become more godly. If you're not a righteous person, this gives you a chance to become more righteous. If you're not a gentle person, and gentleness is a very marvelous, maybe even a miraculous thing. If you're not, then this gives you a chance to become more gentle. And so these are things that are universally, whether you have 5 I am statements or not, whether you've been through the necessary coaching, which is really top-level coaching to help develop 5 I am statements for the person who you're coaching and giving advice and support to. You can always use those 6 1 Timothy 6:11 statements. Next question, did I take at least one action that specifically expanded my future options based on my 5 I am statements? Yes, and then you state what that statement, you state what that is that you put into action. And then interesting last 2 questions here. Percentage of the day spent on activities of my own choosing in line with God's will. Faith is a very important part of my life. Suppose if you don't have that, then you can just say percentage of the day spent on activities of my own choosing in line with my highest self or my highest ideal, right? And my percentages are low. I've got 50%, 45%, 35%, 70%. That was a high on a Thursday. 45, 50, 35, 70, 50, 70, and 80 is the highest I've ever gotten. And I kind of even remember what that day was like. It was like one of my best days. 25%, 65%, 75%, that's up there. 45%, 40, 35, 65, 75, 40, 35, 45, 55. So the highest I've ever had is an 80%. And on that day, I was faithful, which is kind of cool to be able to track that, according to the 1 Timothy 6:11 statement. And on a scale from 1 to 10, how free do I feel from external anxiety and cultural bondage tonight? Because at 10 p.m., originally, I did not end up doing this. My compromise ended up being before 10 a.m. the next day. I fill in these sheets, my tracking sheet. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how free do I feel? I got an 8.5, 8.5, 4 one day, not very free. 9, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 9, 9, 8, 4.5, again low. 8, 9, 8, 7, 8, 9, 9, 8, 8.5, 9.5. Whoa, really good, that one. Pretty awesome. And 9.5, dude. It's good. So that is my freedom tracker. And that is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. I am finishing this HGG podcast, 7 episodes. It may find a form of a reborn model and a reborn expression, but I'm super happy to wrap this up. I thank everybody, I thank you for my engineer, Michael Morgan. Thank you for my co-host, Michael Morgan. I want to thank my producers, Michael Morgan. And I want to thank the just amazing music composer, Michael Morgan. And I want to thank the past Michael Morgan, the present Michael Morgan, and the future Michael Morgan, even the future present Michael Morgan. Because there's nothing better than being loving, kind, and grateful for who you are when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. All the other haters, I'll be praying for you. And I wish nothing but the best for you and your 7-pillar, 7-sided future. Ladies and gentlemen, Would you like me to wrap up with a song? We can do a final song. Which song? Come on now. We'll do one song. Just because. All right. Well, I guess it's the house picks here. So, we'll do a song I've been working on recently. It goes, I'm in your arms, you are my life, you'll never let me go. Because I see, because I trust, because I live in you. So here I am, I'm not myself without your everything. I cannot stand, I cannot dream, 'cause I can only be what you want me to be, and that's me. That's it. That's all I can be. Much love. Continue to be the best you. Be the best being.